All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Mac Yak. Mac Yak number 75. Before we start, let's check out, make sure everybody can hear everybody. So, everybody say something. Can everybody hear everybody? I'm just making sure if it's not just Grudy, or I want to make sure everybody hears everybody before we get. I hear nothing. What? Oh, wait, you can't hear me. There we go. There we go. Can you hear me now? Yeah, yeah. Uh, nope. No. Okay, is everybody? Hold on. All right. All right. Now can we hear everybody?
Hello, hello.
Hello.
He was out of the loop.
Hi.
Give him a
68k forever.
Only
Okay. You'll be
Shouldn't be an echo now. Hopefully there's not an echo.
And this happens just after Dana compliments our production. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Okay.
can hear the crew. I think GT echoes a lot. Everyone else okay.
All right,
There
should
we
be
go.
good now.
Yay.
GT, don't talk.
Nope,
We'll be
I
fine.
should be good now. I know what the problem is.
Okay,
It's my mic.
so we have
box.
our sound back, right?
Huh?
All right,
Yeah.
we're good.
Cool.
All right.
And save those settings.
All right. So everybody, I think I should be good now. Hopefully too. So, anyway,
He has an excuse. He wasn't hosting
that's right.
last week.
I was not hosting last week. I was sick last week.
All right. Everything is good.
I actually was running 101 degree temperature. It was not the
Move it.
Rona because
You sure?
it went away. The
Did you
very,
get tested?
No, I
You
did not get
sure?
tested. I'm not going out getting a thing shoved up my nose. Have you seen how they test you on that?
I have.
No.
Looks like fun.
No.
It's still preferable to alien probing.
I hear
I
they're
don't know.
also
I'd
gonna
rather think
do a
I'd rather
blood
have
test
alien
now,
probing.
too.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Anyway,
Well,
off topic already.
All right. So,
revealing all kinds of stuff today.
anyways, guys, this is episode number 75. Yes, 75 episodes. We still can't get it right, but hey,
We, you.
hey,
Yeah.
hey. It's funny because Skype started doing something weird on it. That's the reason why everybody started echoing again. But I know that last week they were echoing with Steve, and we had to go back to the one.
That's because I just don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So that's,
All right, guys. So here we go. Let's see. First off, what everybody's been up to for the last week.
I've been cleaning my office.
I've been basically
Give us a tour.
working.
So I took everything out and I left it there. That's as far as I got.
that's how I clean.
That's about how I do it.
All right, so
I had a visit from Mike. He's not on the show today, but over the last weekend he came and I delivered some goods to his, and he now has some goodies to play with. So I'm sure
I
you'll
saw
see
that.
him. But
That's probably what he's doing. He's not working late tonight. He's
Yeah, he's like,
So
nah,
true.
screw those Mac
Playing
guys,
with that.
man. I'm just gonna.
he's
the
elbow
rest of
deep
us.
to a G4 cube,
There you go.
trying to.
That sounds more like it.
That does sound like Mike. All right, guys. So, go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and say welcome to any new subscribers we got. I know we're over 700 now.
Yeah,
we are?
at
706.
Yeah, 706.
Yay.
Just remember, guys, we still have a giveaway going. Go watch episode number 69. I know everybody like woohoo that number, whatever, but go
No,
watch.
only Charlie.
Yeah, only Charlie
Yeah.
does that. Go watch episode number 69, and you'll see how to get into the giveaway. We're giving away a MacBook 2008 model. I think Grudy's giving away something. What are you giving away?
iPod.
First generation iPod Mini.
And Rocky's giving away a
What color?
$50 Steam card. So a lot of good stuff there that's being given away. So go and follow the directions on episode number 69. When we reach 1,000 subscribers, we will go ahead and do that giveaway. So make sure you guys go and watch that. All right. All right.
You said 69 twice and nothing from Charlie. Is he okay?
Mm.
I don't
Is
think
he in
he's
there?
here.
Is he there?
He's restraining
he's
us.
here.
No, he's there.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
okay.
there.
Don't give him
A
attention.
little concerned. We'll figure that out after the show.
Okay.
There he goes.
There we go. There we go. Better late than never.
All right, so let's go ahead and head over to the news and announcements here, and we're going to go throw it to Grudy real quick.
Oh, yeah, guys. What I've been doing this week has been I had a very neat event happen this week. I'll talk about in the future, but I also had a very bad week also, and I lost one of the guys that I graduated with from high school. And less than a day later, we lost a guy that graduated, I think it was about a year behind us also. And I want to put a shout out to Nick Benelli's family, Judy and George. I'm very close to Judy and the whole Benelli family. Nick died from the same reason that the other guy died. I won't go into details about it. I don't think it's very public. But he was just about to turn, let's see here, 26. He was just a few weeks shy of it. And he was loved by the whole county. And it's very hard. And then we also lost Tyler Nelson, who I wasn't really friends with. I knew him, I talked to him a few times, but in high school we weren't in the same real major groups. And Tyler married his high school sweetheart and moved out to Colorado and had 2 or 3 kids. He was loved by everyone in the county also. And he was visiting and died from the same thing that Nick died from. And it's been a massive loss to the community. So I send my love out to Judy and George Benelli, and also Whitney Nelson and her children, and all the rest of their family. And, you know.
Yeah,
We
condolences
love you
from the
guys.
Maciac crew.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Yep. Condolences there, Grudy. Hope you're doing all right, man.
Thanks.
All right. So, any other news? I think that's all we had in the news and announcement section. So we'll go ahead and start into our topics tonight. And I want to revisit this topic because I wasn't here last week.
He didn't like my presentation.
No.
Do it again.
Yes, we'll do
I
it.
thought it was
We're gonna
swag.
do it again.
I think so too.
OpenCore has been updated to 0.5.9 now. It's just as easy to install as, and I verified it. If you go to macyak.com, mac-yak.com. That's we got to put a dash in there because somebody stole macyak.com, so we couldn't get that one. But anyways,
Some dude selling
Thieves.
canoes.
yeah, canoes, yeah. But anyways, if you go there, I got an article and I've actually updated it with the latest and greatest on actually how to actually update if you had already installed OpenCore, because I've verified that it does work. And so if you go there and read that, it's a good read. I'm going to have to make another video, though, I think, of a little shorter one, because everybody keeps saying it's too long. My live that I did, they didn't like. There was one guy that commented on there, but anyways.
Well, I'm having some issues.
What do you?
Just make a best of.
Yeah.
You know, just chop it up real quick. And no, you're not going to satisfy everybody ever.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, the OpenCore works great. In fact, now I have the black screen with the, like you see on our intro there, with the dark screen with the white loading bar and stuff. And the icons, it almost looks like I have a real Apple boot screen now.
It's awesome.
It doesn't look like a fake Apple boot screen. So, and this is actually using a video card that is not flashed for Macs. So it will work with that, and it'll work with other OSs that, except for if you're running Windows in what is it called, legacy mode. If you're using
VR.
boot camp and legacy mode, it will not detect it. You have to be running Windows and EFI mode. The problem with that, though, is that if you install Windows in EFI mode, it can screw up your what do you call it, the firmware, because it does try to attach itself to some of the firmware on your Mac, and therefore it could really screw it up, and it is a pain to get back. So to be honest with you, I suggest not doing that, but then you can't pick Windows as your boot because OpenCore won't see it, unfortunately. So
Yet.
I think they're still working on a way to get Legacy to work, but hopefully soon. But OpenCore is actually something that actually is making our CMPs last a lot longer, I think, because now you can actually update Catalina without using DOS Dude 1's patcher. So I am basically DOS Dude 1 free on my CMP right now. The one that you're actually seeing this show on is running Catalina on my CMP with no DOS Dude patcher. Not a patcher at all. This is actually a real full version of Mac OS 10.15.
And you can install software updates like anyone else?
Yep. Now, there's a catch to that. The software updates, you have to go in, and when you won't see the software updates come up, you have to go in and change a couple of things. And in fact, I explain it in my document on how to do that. You have to go in and change a couple of things in the config.plist file. And once you do that, it will actually, you reboot the machine, and then you'll see the updates. You can update your machine just like normal. And as soon as you're done with the updates, you go back and put those back with the way they were and reboot your machine, and you're all fine. It's a little bit more involved, but you can actually just update it using Apple's updater. You don't need DOS Dude 1's patcher every time to update.
Now, I have an issue. I tried to install the latest security update for Mojave last night, and OpenCore would not let me. You know how the installer creates a little temporary partition to install from? You have the install, then it says restart. You restart, and OpenCore shows up, and it shows my boot drive and my recovery drive. But now it also shows this temporary partition.
That's what you should
and
select.
Another recovery drive.
You should select
and when I select that, I just go to a black screen,
select the
and the Mac turns off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to select anything. It should automatically go to that. Because when I updated it, it did the same thing, and it went and selected that temporary one for Catalina. Catalina does the same thing. And selected the Catalina one and went to the installer for Catalina. So it does work. You just have to let it go on its own. Don't touch anything.
And I'm sure you elaborate on this in the document, but this Clover thing that you used is no longer being used or something?
Why?
That's what they say. They have another thing.
Alternatives, but it still functions, I believe.
Yeah, the only thing you use Clover, the only thing I use Clover Configurator for is to actually mount the EFI drive. You have to be able to mount the EFI partition, because remember, the EFI partition is not mounted. You can't see it because it's not mounted, because it's protected by the system. All Clover Configurator does is let you mount that partition so you can actually make changes to the EFI partition. That's all it does. And then you unmount the drive after you get done with it so you don't screw things up. You know what I'm saying?
But there's a very positive flip side. I use Mojave, so I don't have the some of the complications that Catalina has. And I also installed Radeon Boost, and I think I mentioned that last week. I think I touched on that. Last week, or earlier this week, I don't remember, I made a video. The first video I've made since I installed OpenCore and Radeon Boost. And on average, or estimated, I think I saved about 3 hours, where you wait for transcoding and stuff. This was just import from the phone, no transcoding. I edited the footage as it was, did all my edits, exported it to Compressor. Compressor took 20 minutes to encode the entire 1 hour video, and I was done. I saved hours. And I'm running a basic card. I'm running a 580. So, very impressive.
Yep. Now, see, I'm running the 5700, and I did the same thing. I've been actually redoing all the MacYac videos, and those are usually an hour and a half to 2 hours. Some of them are 2 hours long before we start at the hour and a half thing. It takes my compressor about 20 minutes, about 25 minutes to do a hour and a half to almost 2 hour video at 1080p. Okay, I'm doing 30 frames a second. I'm not doing 60 frames a second, but I'm doing 30 because I'm basically doing that to make it to audio files is all I'm doing. So I didn't need to have 60 frames a second. But I don't know if are you doing 60 or 30?
For my videos,
Yeah.
30.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
no 60, no fancy 4K.
Yeah.
And 1080p 30.
That's all I'm doing. I'm doing the Apple devices, 1080 or something like that. I forget, HD 1080, whatever. So that's what I've been using, and it takes about 20 minutes. Now, I don't know about your card, Jay, but using Radeon Boost, are you seeing the full card being used at the time, 100%?
Oh, yeah.
See,
I think maxes out.
Mine doesn't max out. Mine's only using 1/3 of the GPU and still doing it just as fast.
Nice.
So which card do you have, GT?
The XT, the RX 5700 XT.
Oh, okay. And Jay, you have?
RX 580.
Okay, I got a little excited because I'm looking. Wait, I have an ATI Radeon 5.7 something, and it's like, oh wait, no, that's the 1 gigabyte one that comes.
Well, mine,
the old Mac Pros.
My work, probably not.
Never mind.
Mine has 8 gigabytes of video RAM, so.
Mine has 1.
So there seems to be a little bit of question in the chat as to what systems this OpenCore can be used on.
Just about
any Mac Pro 4.1 or 5.1, but the 4.1 does have to be flashed
to
5.1.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to be
so
running,
older than that won't work.
Yeah, you have to be running firmware 144.0.0, whatever that is.
What about iMacs?
iMacs,
Nope.
why? You don't need it.
Well,
Because iMac has an integrated flash card. And so, to be honest with you, you really don't need it on an iMac.
Well, what if
do if you have the
There we
PC
go.
flash Dell card.
Okay, but
Yeah.
here's the thing: is I don't think it's been made for iMacs. They didn't even consider
No,
it.
I don't think it would work on it.
So this
Oh
is
yeah.
late
They-
Mac
they
I
Pro
could see a
work
similar
only.
need for some of those users, though.
Yeah.
And if I recall correctly, the Radeon Boost part, which is not part of OpenCore, but OpenCore enables you installing Radeon Boost. I think the lowest end card that can utilize it is the 580.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. You might have to check the article on
Well,
Mac-Yak.
But here's another catch to that too, because
But the
when
thing-
Catalina updated just recently, Radeon Boost, it broke Radeon Boost for cards that were Navi 10 and 20 enabled, like my card. My card's a Navi 10 card, okay? So therefore, I was getting kernel panics whenever I did it. So until I figured out to take the Radeon Boost out of the config plist, once I got that out, it booted fine, no problems. However, I did notice, Jay, that I do have a slight decrease in my Geekbench score, but
Decrease?
decrease from what I had before when I had Radeon Boost running. However, I don't notice any decrease in my performance of actually using the card, using like Final Cut Pro or anything like that. So
That's what matters.
yeah,
By the way, it should work on the 400 series cards like the 460, 470, and 480, because it's literally the 500 series, just slightly slower.
yeah, but yeah, if there's a lot of links on the article, if you go and read them, they go to some of the links that I show in there, where Martin Lowe has done he's done a lot of work on the OpenCore stuff, so I give him a lot of credit for what he's done. It's just the reason why I wrote the article is because everything out there was just like, you had to go find it in pieces. Even Martin's, post he had in there was not very well written, in my opinion. It was made for somebody that was experts like him. It was written engineerese, so
It's always
Yeah.
good to have a translation.
Martin's never been good at putting anything in layman's terms.
And then when he did the video, his video has no sound. All you see is stuff moving around the screen, and I'm like, I had to watch it 4 times before I figured out what the hell he was doing. So.
Oh, that takes me back to a lot of videos I've watched.
Yeah.
Me too.
Now it should be said that if you're watching this video, you get excited about it, or you're listening to this in podcast form, which we are still planning to do, have a backup and use a clone drive to test
3
it out.
backups.
Yeah. Because if it goes bad,
That's why I have this drive right here.
Don't drop
you
it.
want to be able to quickly recover. Now, it can go bad, like with any system tinkering you do, but overwhelmingly, this is a safe and, well-working
It's very
procedure.
safe and easy. It used to be a couple months ago. This was a very difficult thing to install. It has gotten so easy now. Martin has gotten this so easy. It's basically drag and drop, and that's it. It's that easy. You don't even have to do a lot of stuff on it. I mean, just mount the EFI drive and drag and drop. That's pretty much it. And then reboot. That's all you have to do. All right. So, anybody got any other questions before we move on? Bueller, any questions? No.
Bueller.
Nope.
Bueller.
All right. So, next topic of the night: vintage. Is it a badge of honor for some, a bad word for others, and always the topic of debate, disagreement? It's been 17 months since we actually touched this subject, so I guess we're going to bring it up again.
Yep.
So, okay, vintage. Apple's definition, dictionary definition, and the Facebook group users definition is all over the place. So we need to figure out what is vintage. I mean,
And I'll mention before I dig into this tasty watermelon here. I put this topic back on because I'm in one of the Facebook groups that has vintage in the name, and it's a frequent discussion. Like someone posts a 2009 iMac. That's not vintage. Someone posts a G4 Mac Mini. That's not vintage. And they just want it to be old. At least the users want it to be old.
like Steve's collection old.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
vintage. But
Yeah.
it's
That's
a
obsolete.
vintage Apple product group. So would it be unreasonable to just follow the vintage guidelines from Apple?
We can't have common sense there, Jay. That just
Jay,
We have
that
to-
makes
we
too
have
much
to.
sense.
But the official rules from the admins, if I remember correctly, go up to 2005, and that's where it cuts off.
No, including Intel, they're fine with.
They include early Intel. Yeah.
Might be a
So the
I
group
think
itself
a lot of
says, vintage is just older stuff. Apple says vintage is anything older than 5 years. The dictionary says vintage, you're talking about 50 years ago. So can we reach a consensus about what is vintage when it comes to Apple stuff?
any
for me,
Apple computer made in the last 50 years.
That
To
works.
be honest with you, my definition of vintage for computers, for computers now, I would say at least 10 years old or
Probably.
more.
Mhm.
Okay, that
Yeah.
would be vintage to me.
But why? You're just pulling that number out of thin air.
Well, that's the same way. Like a vintage car, they say usually it's 25 years, which I kind of disagree with because you see some Toyotas out there that are like 25 years old, but they have a classic license plate on them. It's like, why, But I think a set number should be what it is, and my number, my opinion, is 10 years. I mean, anything older than 10 years
Yeah.
should be vintage.
So I believe Apple's reasoning, and Jay, what did you say? It was 5 years for vintage, 7 years for obsolete, or something like
Yeah.
that. Then if you're in the state of California, you get a little bit of an extension. But how I always seen it and how I explain it to others is there's obsolete, there's vintage, and then there's not supported. So not supported, I think, is the first stage. You can upgrade to the latest OS. You can't use maybe some of the new features of Mac OS. That's how they used to be. Leopard and Tiger and all these other things came out, and most of the features you could use even on a G3, but nope, you couldn't use iChat AV or something on the newer machine. So I always consider like the first step is unsupported, then you go to vintage, then you go to obsolete. But I know Apple doesn't really have an unsupported category. It's just like, oh, nope, can't do that update anymore. You know, you're sort of stuck on the old one forever. But that's just how I always just thought about it in my mind.
I think a lot of the contention within that group specifically is because the name is Vintage Apple Macintosh Enthusiasts. So they're not called Macintosh anymore. They're called Macs now, and they have been for at least a decade. So that's where I think a lot of people are saying, we're talking about Apple Macintosh, like the old beige machines, you know. But then you look at the, like Rudy said, the guidelines for the group, and it goes clear up into the 2005 range. And they'll probably extend that, you know, as the years go on. So, you know, it's you have to go by the whatever the moderators say, I guess. But
yeah, and everyone has their own definition.
If it's going to become an issue like that, which I don't think it has, it's just a few really sensitive types that are complaining about it. Change the name of the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I see
officially
it,
classified as vintage group.
Well, here's
when
a
you
thought.
have,
Make it the
a
classic
Macintosh-
Mac group.
Sorry, Bruce.
Oh, go ahead, Bruce. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, one of the, for me, when the moment a computer is no longer able to be updated to the latest system, so the minute that Apple say you can't put the latest operating system on this, if you want to keep with that computer, to some extent, you become an enthusiast. You know what I mean? You're not going to just go out and buy a new Mac. You become an enthusiast because you are looking for ways to keep this device going as long as possible. And that's where things like groups and that really come in handy. So to some extent, I sort of feel that the moment someone has, you know, a computer that won't run the latest operating system, and they're, you know, potentially reaching out for help on how they can keep that computer going for as long as possible, you know, I feel like that kind of qualifies as vintage to some extent.
So our 5.1s would be vintage.
Yeah, that's
They
what
don't
I was
officially
thinking.
support Catalina.
Actually, they would be obsolete
In my mind.
according to Apple
For Apple, yeah.
Yes.
because they're
For
older
my
than
thinking.
7 years.
And I'd agree with that. And after all, it's just a label that Apple is putting on their products so they don't have to support them anymore. I mean, it's just going by their standard. And I completely understand people who are our age or older thinking like, you know, GT's logic. Well, you know, a vintage car is 25 years old, or I think of vintage, I think it's much older than that. I mean, everyone has their own opinion for what it is, but it's just a little silly. Like Dana said, people are just getting overly sensitive about it. The wrong things in these groups all the time. So it's
Yeah.
just a little silly.
Yeah.
So I'm interested
Is it
in
really
finding out
cluttering your feed that bad?
when is vintage an insult and when is it not? Like if I say your high end, pimped out, upgraded 5.1 Mac Pro is vintage, someone might get offended. Say, look, when you're talking about vintage, this is faster than an iMac Pro standing next to it. But it is vintage.
Why get
What is
offended?
that?
It's a computer. It's like,
Oh.
if you're going to get
We're
offended
talking-
about
we're
that,
talking
you've got
people
deeper
here. We're talking
problems.
people. But if I say, Steve, your Quadra 9000, whatever the number is vintage, like, yeah, it is. So
Yeah.
how does that work?
It's vintage and it doesn't work.
So,
Yeah,
he goes, Firefox Legacy runs great on early Intel Macs. Sometimes.
There's a lot of good chat about this.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
trying to read
yeah.
some of it here.
I'd argue that the later generations PowerPC runs smoother than the early generations Intel because we just have more choice of operating systems on the PowerPC. But that's just me.
Well, unless you're
Well,
talking about
yeah.
like the late 05 models that only had 2 OSs officially.
Yeah, but G5 doesn't count.
Yeah, G5 was like a weird.
Yeah, but what
because
about
it was
the
only had 2 operating system or 2.
what about
No,
the
you had-
G4
you had-
high res?
You had Panther, you had Tiger, and you had Leopard.
What, G5?
Yeah.
G5 shipped with
Well,
Panther.
not
the
the
first one.
late 05.
Yeah, my G5 ship with Panther.
No.
Yeah.
I'm talking the Power Mac G5.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought
They had Jaguar
No, the Intel
on
G5.
the first
What are you
one,
talking
too.
I've still got the original installed disc, so yeah.
But anyways, I mean, it was very short-lived for how it came out though, and we're going to talk about that later about short-lived and stuff. I think you mentioned that somebody asked about the ARM discussion there, so we're going to talk about that later though.
I mean, I
So-
think really the problem is not necessarily the definition of vintage. It's more about how people whine and whinge on Facebook groups, isn't
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the whining is just stupid. It's like, look, it's an old computer. If it's a 2008, nothing really. I mean, I'm giving away a 2008. Okay, so is that a vintage computer or is that obsolete?
It's a free computer. That's what it
It's
is.
a free computer. Yeah. It works. It still does what it was supposed to do when it came out. It
In the end, if you see somebody post something that you don't think belongs there, scroll on.
Ignore
Don't
it,
worry
yeah.
about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can hide.
Ignore
You
it.
can hide posts from showing up in your feed ever again. Just don't raise a stink about it and be a. Oh, I almost said something.
Don't be a silly person.
Don't be a
Ruin
silly
it for the
person.
rest of us. And if you have some old stuff that you don't want, just let one of us know. We'll take it off your hands. It's as simple as
Yeah.
that.
We don't have no
No,
shame in taking it from you.
if it's a vintage 2013 Mac Pro, I'll take it. I'll find a home for it. I need some
Yeah,
trash
same.
cans.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Any more on this topic before we move on? Or
I'm trying to catch up with the chat, but it is going fast.
yes, I know. Are we got to turn slow mode on for a change, or?
No, it's just Dana. Dana's drunk and she's talking all kinds of smack about G5 and PowerPC. But yeah, as we can see even from the chat, opinions on vintage vary a lot. So I stick with the Apple's definition because this is referring or referencing Apple products. It works for me. I don't see it as an insult to my Mac Pro that it's officially vintage according to Apple. I mean,
Well, the way I look at vintage is if it cannot run the latest OS, even with a hack, it should be vintage. Like for instance, a 1,1, 2,1 Mac Pro can't run
It
past
depends on
that
how good the hacks are, though, doesn't it?
I think what we should do is every 6 months the Mac Yak crew should have a rating system, and that way everybody can agree on what it's called, and it'll be like the movie ratings or whatever. You have a label or whatever, and you say that's a grade A Mac, it's supported, and oh no, that's an F, it won't run anything past whatever.
Hey,
We
maybe
decide.
we'll
B
make a
for
game of that
beige.
next week. Make a game of. We'll show some pictures of different Macs
I
and
like
say
that idea.
what do we classify this as?
Yes,
Yeah,
there we go.
yeah.
I'm
So
all for
everybody
that. So
chat.
next time
I
it
am
comes
too.
up in one of the groups, we could say, "Are you talking dictionary vintage, Apple vintage, car
Or
vintage,
Mac
or Mac
Yak
Yak vintage?" Just to confuse people a little.
And then there's drunk
So-
Mac Yak vintage.
Yeah. So the definition that I typically use is if you cannot reliably use it as a daily driver anymore, it's vintage.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's open for
Um,
debate as well, because
Yeah, I consider
Bruce
that.
cannot use with the web stuff he does. He cannot use most of the old stuff as a daily driver. I'm
Same.
fine on a PowerPC G4 as a daily driver.
Exactly. That's what I was about to
We've
say.
actually done that with the Power PC challenge we do
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
January is our Power PC challenge every year. So if you guys don't know about that, we actually do a challenge where we challenge everybody. I think we did it for 2 weeks this time. We might do it for 3 weeks in this next year.
We're gonna do it all year round.
We do it in January, and so if you're new to us, we do what we call the Power PC Challenge, where we ask you to actually use a Power PC if you have one for your daily driver as much as you possibly can, and see how you can use it in your daily use.
It's a
Okay.
ton of fun, man.
It is. It is. I didn't do it this last time, but I did it the very first time, and it was actually pretty fun. I used my Power Mac G5, and it worked out perfect. So
And this year, I actually used. I used my G4 for more tasks than any of the years before because I think it was you, Bruce. You helped me track down a few applications that I needed to manage my databases and stuff. And it was slow, but it worked. And I had a blast doing it.
Just remember, it was slow back then doing it that way. So you weren't like, you were like probably back in the day, it was like, oh, this is screaming fast.
Oh, back in the day, I had no such databases.
Yeah, but still, it was screaming fast back in the day.
Yeah, dude. And I'm going off topic, but
yeah,
how many years I got out of my PowerPC, my Power Mac G3, 350 megahertz. I ran the world on that thing. No problem.
Yep. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and get into this next time. I think everybody's wanting us to talk about this topic. So
what is next topic?
We're gonna skip into it and go to Apple and ARM.
Hey,
that's next
before we
topic?
do that.
Well, it's not the next topic, but we're making it the next.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, before we do that, let's answer Stephen Flynn's question.
Well,
How do you
answer it?
connect
I
an
didn't even see
older
it.
PowerPC Mac to Wi-Fi?
Who wants to take this one?
You probably have to use older Wi-Fi.
Well, it depends on which Wi-Fi you're using. If it's just a regular airport card from '99.
So he has a PowerBook 12-inch 867, which has Airport Extreme. So you need 802.11g access point. You also have to make sure that that access point is friendly enough to not screw up the IP address distribution, like DHCP server or whatever. So you might have to set up a static IP if you're getting some confusion over there.
Yeah, in that case, yeah. And you got to make sure your server is backwards compatible with regular WPA. Regular WPA?
No, it's WEP, I think. WEP.
No, WPA will work on G. You just have to have an old router.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys. So we've been discussing this, and it's coming out in a lot of groups. A lot of people are sitting there saying ARM. Apple's going ARM. Apple's going to ARM. They're going to ARM processors in their Pros. They're going to their iMacs and to the MacBooks. We here at MacYak basically say no, they're not. They're not going to do that. They're actually probably, and this is, I would say with a 99.9% certainty that they are going to be going to AMD processors.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that, well, this is my reason for it that I think.
Line.
Yeah.
Not on the whole line.
Not for the whole line. I think they may do ARM maybe in things like the MacBook Air. That would be the only Mac I could see with an ARM processor in it. Everything else, MacBook Pros, the Mac Pro, the iMacs, and the iMac Pro will probably be AMD. I do not see them using ARM processors in that because a couple of reasons that I have, and I'll explain to you the reason why I think they're not. One, ARM processors just do not have the processing power that AMD has right now. AMD has surpassed Intel in processing power. You take the EPYC line of processors that AMD has, they will smoke just about any Intel chip out there. Intel cannot compete. Plus the fact that Apple is actually already in bed with AMD with their GPUs. So why wouldn't they get CPUs with them? I mean, that only makes common sense if you think about it.
Exactly.
Okay, so where did these rumors come from?
I think a lot of it's probably because people are just wanting it to be ARM. I don't trust that they're going to be ARM because there's a lot of these rumor groups have been wrong in the past, and I'm hoping that we are the first ones, and you heard it here first on MacYak, that we are right and they are wrong.
We have what you call a Bob,
yeah.
And Bob feeds us little scraps of information, and
yes.
Bob says AMD.
Yes.
But these rumors have been going around since 2017, and I've always said there's no way in heck they'll go to AMD before that happens. even long before we even knew Bob.
Well,
So
here's another reason why I think they'll go to AMD before ARM. One, they'd have to rewrite OS 10 pretty much completely
yeah,
to fit the ARM processor. For AMD, because it's still based on the x86,
x86, yeah.
it's not that much of a recode.
Yep.
So therefore it will pretty much run without any much modification on an AMD processor. That's what I think. So to be honest with you, I do not trust any of those guys. Anybody that says ARM, I sit there and kind of laugh at and giggle at them. I'm like, yeah, and next month we're going to find out. And I'm hoping we won't have to eat crow, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to be right. I'm hoping.
Well,
they have to switch. It's
Yes.
unavoidable. Every Mac they've released since 2015 at least is throttling when you put some pressure on it. Laptop-wise, that is. Hell, even the iMac line is so... Up until the iMac Pro, the thermal design is so bad that they just can't keep it cool in there. So they have to get away from Intel.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, AMD would be what makes the most sense. You got more power, less power consumption, lower cost, and you don't have to rewrite every app in your OS.
Exactly, because that's going to be the
much
biggest
faster
problem.
CPUs.
That will be the biggest problem. We just transferred over to 64-bit only, but it's only written for Intel x86 code. AMD's should work, but ARM wouldn't, and a lot of people have a lot of money invested in, x86 programs.
Well, you just think of this. I mean, if you look at the timeline from, and sorry to cut you off, Rudy, but I'm just, you look at the timeline of how this happened before. So in 2005, they announced, in June 2005 at the WWDC, they said, we're going to switch to Intel. By January of 2006, they had the MacBook Pro and the iMac as the first models. And they had the Mac Mini. In April, they announced the boot camp stuff. And by August, their transition was complete to Intel. August 2006. So, but the problem was software. You had tons of companies pulling their hair out because, of course, Apple surprised everybody. They weren't going to tell anybody. Adobe took forever to transfer their stuff. CS3 was the first Intel native version of the Creative Suite that Adobe released. You had programs that never came back to the Mac that were just PowerPC, and then they're like, you know what? Nope, we can't do this again. We're a small shop. We're Windows only. And then you had other companies go, well, your Mac has Boot Camp now, so you could pay for the Windows license or buy VMware or Parallels, and you could use the Windows software. We're not supporting the Mac natively. And so I think Apple would be shooting themselves in the foot if they decided, oh, no, we're going all ARM now. See you guys later.
Well, it's like this. Back then, they did have one solution, which was Rosetta. Any program that supported a G4, not a G5, but any program that supported a G4 could run on Rosetta for 3 operating systems.
Yeah, and with mostly successful. ARM. Yeah, it was mostly successful.
ARM can't emulate x86.
Well, see, that's what I'm thinking. There's some muddled water here. I think that yes, the only ARM chip is going to be a T2 chip, or it's going to be some type of coprocessor chip, because my thought is that if they put an ARM chip in one of these machines, it's only going to be in a situation, and maybe coprocessor is the wrong type of word for this. I'm not an engineer, but it would be in a supporting role where maybe you could run iOS apps or code sets or something in a more native way. So you have an iPad app store, and you could use most or some of the apps, because that has been something I think that people have been struggling with for a long time. You buy a Mac and you buy an iPad, and it's like, well, there's this great app on the iPad. I can't get that app on here. I understand the whole touch interface is completely different, but there's a lot of apps from these developers who have done fantastic jobs. And I know Xcode, makes it a little easier these days to, do something for the Mac and then do something on the iPad, and there has been monumental changes in these coding platforms. But I think that it would be an interesting thing to do that, and I'm not saying this will come out at WWDC. I'm saying maybe one day we'll have maybe an ARM coprocessor to handle some video encoding or do some of these crazy, fast stuff, or just overhead stuff that maybe your Mac doesn't want to handle. Maybe just the ARM chip does it. I think they will likely choose AMD for the next, and I think it'll probably be in like the powerhouse, like the Mac Pro first, and then we'll trickle down to the rest of them, just like they did with actually the opposite of what they did with the PowerPC to Intel transition. They started off with some of the lower end ones and then worked their way up.
Well, I've thought that the ARM chips make a lot of sense for Apple. Financially, it makes a lot of sense for them to switch to ARM. It would save them a ton of money. Not any kind of discount we as consumers would feel, of course. But they might be cocky enough to say, hey, we have this entire app store for the current ARM processors, iPad, iPhone, and all that. We can switch. Nobody's going to cry too hard about it because we have a whole app store full of stuff. But I think, or I hope that Apple is not that cocky and that they say, listen, we're not ready for this switch. Let's not do it. Let's stick with what we know, x86, and just go AMD. And I hope to see ARM chips in a supporting role. Kind of like having maybe, let's say, a MacBook Pro now comes with an AMD chip. You got 16 cores for half the power consumption. Yay, everybody happy. But it also has an ARM chip that allows you, like Steve said, to run iOS apps natively. And when you're not using iOS apps, maybe it functions as kind of like an afterburner card in the Mac Pro. It helps you crunch numbers and like a coprocessor. That would be awesome.
I can see that. Yeah.
That would be awesome. I think ARM and AMD could make a really nice power couple inside a Mac. But Intel has to go. They've outlived their usefulness for years now, I think.
Oh, yeah. Unless I think it was
a huge shot in the arm, though, when they switched over, because I tell this story all the time, but I remember running a pre-release version of Tiger on a crummy old eMachine Celeron processor. It was probably like a gigahertz, and OS 10 flew on it, and I knew from that, I'm like, OS 10 is going to fly on Intel chips, and it did. And so I'm excited for whatever they're going to do with it. Not that I could afford whatever machine they do with it, but it'll be nice to make sure that they're not becoming stagnant here.
Yeah, it should be interesting. But do we think they're going to announce any kind of switch, whatever it may be, at WWDC?
I think they are. I think they are, because they have to for one reason, and that's because WWDC is the Worldwide Developer Conference. They have to tell the developers, hey, this is what we're going to. So they got to do something like that.
But is it not too soon? All those people that just spent fortunes on the new Mac Pros and the new MacBook Pros,
but I don't
within
think
a year
gonna,
introduce a new architecture.
But I don't think they're going to go away from it anytime soon. I think they're still going to sell the Intel version alongside the AMD version. It's going to be two different versions for a while.
Yeah, and the chips in these machines now aren't slouches. I mean, they're pretty darn fast. So I'm gonna have envy if I go out and buy, a slower processor and then they release a faster one. But I think it's less jarring from PowerPC to Intel, where it's like, all right, I'm losing out on native Windows compatibility. I'm losing out on dual core on a laptop and all this stuff.
Yeah,
exactly, because then you won't be able to run Boot Camp anymore. I mean, on an ARM.
Exactly. And that's going to really hurt their market base, too, for people that still need to run Windows.
And Brock has a good point. The iPad Pro has a trackpad now. Why make another device with an ARM chip? Apple is marketing the latest iPads
as a computer. Exactly.
So,
yeah. The thing is, they're marketing your next computer is not a computer, even though it's still a computer.
Yeah. It's not a computer, but let us sell you this computer.
It's so stupid.
We'll charge you for a computer.
Marketing campaign.
So, Bruce, what do you think about this?
Yeah, he's been quiet.
He's been thinking.
I have been very quiet. Are you able to hear me? Yep. So
it's
basically,
I
mean, I still feel like the fact that these rumors exist, the fact that they are. We've been reading about these all over the place, about the ARM chips. I definitely feel that ARM is going to play a role in the announcement they make. but I tend to agree with everyone else about the reasons why they should not be using ARM as the main processor. So, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, ARM is just not suited.
One thing that I've learned over the years is, that, especially in recent years, is that you never underestimate Apple's ability to disappoint.
Well, also to deceive.
Well, that's the whole.
Yeah, I don't know if they do that so much anymore. That seemed like it was kind of their.
Well, maybe they've
MO
changed their
back in
tune
the
because
day.
they've had so many leaks get out, on especially the iPhone. I mean, nowadays it's like, oh, we already know what the iPhone's going to look like before it even comes out.
See, they don't
Tim
seem
Cook's
to
gonna
care.
double down on security.
They don't seem to care so much anymore that these details get leaked. When Jobs was alive, heads would roll if something like that happened.
Oh, hell
Remember
yeah.
that guy left the iPhone in the bar, the prototype, left it in a bar?
The thing is, he wasn't fired, believe it or not.
I know he wasn't, because it was
He's still a janitor.
it was a very
today.
public story. Had it not gone straight to the news the way it did and went viral the way it did, you can bet
he
he
would
probably
have
was
been
fired.
canned. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty high-profile story. So they're like, well, if we fire him, we were the bad guys. So
Well, it's funny too because I don't know if you remember watching that reveal where Jobs said, "You've probably seen this before."
Yeah, stop
You know,
me
he
if you've
used-
seen this
yeah.
before.
Yeah. I mean, he joked it off, but he was probably seething underneath.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, they have been known to leak things to their friends in the press. They always use the Wall Street Journal, Walt Mossberg, and these people that they're very friendly with. They used to do that more, I think, than they do now. Now I think they let some wild story go, and they don't. Obviously, Apple's not going to comment yes or no on it. But any press, oh, Apple's going to do this, Apple's going to do that. The stock prices just keeps going up, so they don't care.
yeah,
Yeah.
any press
Well,
is good press as far as they're
Jake
concerned.
is in here saying desktop should stay Intel. Jake, no.
I
I
Well,
think they
he
need to
joined
go.
late. He may
Yeah,
have
I
missed the whole thing.
They need to go to
Rewind
AMD.
about 10 minutes, Jake.
Yeah. They need to go to AMD for the simple fact is that Intel just cannot keep up with AMD. AMD has passed them. They have. It used to be AMD was the redheaded stepchild of the chips. Now they've become the daddy, and now the Intel is the redheaded stepchild. So it's basically, you're in AMD is actually going to be better. If you look at I don't know if anybody watches Linus Tech Tips, but he has actually even said that.
think a few people do.
Yeah, I think a few people do. But he has actually even said that AMD is pretty much the future. And I think that's all he runs in most of his stuff now.
Well,
because-
I think they caught Intel snoozing. Intel thought it was so dominant for all these years. They, were taking their time or doing whatever. Not that they put out bad chips. Some of the chips they put out are fantastic. I'd love to have them. But I think AMD just was able to leapfrog them, and nobody saw it coming. I didn't see it coming. I wish I would have bought some
didn't either.
AMD stock.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody says press F for Intel.
I don't see any Fs.
No.
Not getting one from me anyway.
Yeah, because we actually have to deal with Intels in our CMPs for a long time. Because guess what? It ain't gonna use AMD.
Yeah.
It uses an AMD GPU.
I won't press F. I don't have much love left for Intel.
Yeah.
A few years
At
ago,
the end of the day, I don't care if PowerPC comes back, if it's going to be AMD, or if it's ARM. As long as it works, and as long as it can be used for a long time.
Tim Cook is going to invite Motorola and IBM up on stage, and everyone's going to be like, what the heck is going on?
So we took the G5 and we picked up where we left off.
Everyone will
We
be selling
thought-
Apple stock. I'll be buying it.
We all thought Steve Jobs was wrong. So we're going back to the PowerPC. The G6. This is the new G6.
You guys know how energy's cheaper now? Well, we brought back the PowerPC. It's more affordable now.
It's smaller, it's thinner, and it still has a 2 kilowatt power supply. Yeah. Should be fun.
See the caps on these things.
And then you see that little spinner on your electric thing going like just being spinning off,
Yeah, but hasn't quick question, hasn't PowerPC been developing in the background still? PowerPC is still around, right?
Oh, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Well, they
yeah.
still use it for some game consoles and stuff like that.
The Mars rovers all use PowerPC.
Well, that's because they were developed back then. I mean, you got to remember,
Curiosity
stuff that's
was,
launched out into space has been developed 10 years ago. Okay,
right.
so
But Curiosity was developed fairly late in the what do you call it, the aughts of 2000, and it still uses I think G3s, but yeah, as far as like I think a lot of Linux people like PowerPC, don't they?
Yeah. Then there's a lot of specific, industries and applications where it makes sense for them to use that architecture. And,
like I think like these smart fridges and smart appliances that use JavaScript as their OS. I mean, I think some of those run on PowerPC architecture.
Well, you got to think of it too is PowerPC doesn't have. Well, look at right now, Intel chips have a lot of vulnerabilities, and they haven't fixed it yet. So the PowerPC chips didn't have that stuff. So and plus it's not as widely used. So guess what? Hackers are not trying to actually exploit PowerPCs much because guess what? Intel is a bigger target.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure AMD is going to have the same thing happen if they become the dominant CPU in most PCs nowadays.
I just hope that they're paying attention to all these vulnerabilities that are happening at Intel's side because they're going to run into the same boat. I'm sure there's something that some clever guy is going to discover 3-4 years after the chip comes out.
Yeah. Well, this whole Intel thing wasn't discovered until almost a decade later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Some guy's like, oh, crap, I forgot to hit save on that schematic.
Good thing I retired last year.
Yeah, good thing my pension's still paying me.
Yeah. All right, guys. So
what do you guys think? Do you guys
thoughts
agree
on
with
this?
us?
Or, huh?
I'm asking the audience. Do you guys agree on us? Do you
I think a lot of them agree
yeah.
that should be AMD. I mean, there's a couple of it in there I think that said ARM, but I think for the most part the majority says AMD.
Yeah, I think ARM would, if they decide to go that way, it would suck from a user perspective when you have old software that you rely on. But imagine the battery life on those things. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, from what we've been told by Bob, the battery life on the AMD side is just as good.
I told Bob to send me a prototype, and he hasn't, so I don't know what to believe.
I don't think
right
they're
now.
check cleared.
Yeah, the bribe check, right? All right, guys. So let's go ahead and move on to our next topic here. And this one was supposed to be our third topic, but we kind of switched things around a little because the audience was wanting to talk about ARM here, so we did that. So this is Dana's topic because he was in the chat earlier. He's like, cussing out iOS 13.
Oh, yeah.
So Dana, go on. Let's let you have this one.
And Rocky pointed out that this was covered, I think, when iOS 13 first came out on the show here, but I must have missed it. I don't remember it. And even then, we've been living with iOS 13 for how many months now, and it's still a problem. So when you're typing a text to somebody, or you're even using voice to text, if it thinks that a word, especially with voice to text, we'll just go with that. If you say a word and it thinks that's one word, but it could be another, you'll get it the blue underline on it to like suggest that maybe it's a different word.
Right.
And you could tap on it and it would bring up, the little preview of
Suggestions.
3 different words that it might be. It doesn't seem to work half the time anymore. And it's really frustrating because, I'll see a word there and I'll know what I said, and the phone thinks I said something else. And so I tap the word and nothing happens. So I tap it again, and it goes to the end of the word, the cursor. And then I tap it again, and it selects the word, but it doesn't show any suggestions. It's just, it's inconsistent, and it's infuriating. And I want to know why. I want to know why it isn't fixed. It worked fine before, but now it seems to be broken. How do they accomplish that? And how do they not fix it?
One or 2 words actually. Tim Cook.
Egg freckles.
Innovation.
It's just and another thing that's kind of related, voice to text. I have an iPhone 6s. I've been using it for 4 or 5 years now.
Vintage.
And
Vintage.
Well, no, because iOS 13 runs on it in the latest version. So is it vintage?
Maciac vintage.
Right. So, voice to text, when I got it at what was the iOS on there, 11, I think, back in the day when those came out, 10 or 11. Voice to text was really, really good. I was so amazed by it when I would just, speak a paragraph into the phone, and then I'd look at it and be like, man, got everything right. Very rarely did it come up with an error. And of course, if it did, you can tap it and fix it.
Just let Grudy talk to it, because he always does that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's
but voice to text now is terrible. It's like I will be dictating something to it, and it will skip 3 or 4 words in a row, and I'll have to go back and be like, "How did you miss that?"
You know what? And Dana, you mentioned this, and I just now realized I remember this little problem I've been having lately is when you push the voice to text, like if you're texting something, and you push the little microphone, to do voice to text.
It'll start and then stop.
It'll start, and then when you pause for a sec, because it's not using Siri, so you pause for a second because you're trying to get your thoughts, and you start talking again, it won't pick up anything after that. It's like it stops.
Oh, really?
That irritates
I've noticed
me so much.
I've noticed with certain apps open, if I start, I'll hit the microphone to start talking, and you'll hear boop, and you see like the little line with your sound, and then a second later it stops, and I'll have to quit the application and reopen it, and then it'll work. But I don't know if that's an issue with the application or if it's an issue with the
it's an issue with iOS, because I'm talking about using iMessages, and I'll sit there and the little thing will come up with your voice, and you'll sit there and start talking, and as soon as you finish the sentence, I'll sit there and try to say, period, because you have to say the punctuation,
right.
Of course.
Right.
And as soon as you say
Why? Rudy doesn't.
I do, because I like to have my punctuation and stuff in there. But anyways, you say period or question mark or whatever, and then you start saying your next sentence, and it stops. It won't detect your next sentence. It's like, we only thought you meant to say one sentence, not a couple of sentences.
So does it stop recording, or does it just not pick up?
It just looks like
saying?
the
It kind
voice
of
thing
looks
is
like
still
it's
moving.
timing out.
Right.
It's moving,
okay.
but it doesn't do it.
I
So I have
into
to hit
that.
the voice thing and then hit it again to get it to start again.
Yeah.
Jay, have you had that happen?
Oh yeah, I stopped, and I've said in previous episodes, I've been saying it since I got Siri. I only use it to say, Siri, set a timer for half an hour, or stuff like that. And I don't even do that anymore, because Siri doesn't understand me when I talk.
Yeah.
Now, it could be the Baileys, could be the time of day, but I'm not
your
that
accent.
bad. I don't have an accent. But, any kind of speech recognition now is so poor that I just stopped trying altogether.
See, I haven't had that particular issue where it'll just stop,
Oh, I've had it.
But now this has been sitting here all this time, so now that it's heard me, it's going to start doing it. So
I think that has been a frustrating issue. Have you also dealt with the problem? I think it was a recent, probably also an iOS 13 thing, where if you go with your keyboard to try and like highlight the word that you need to misspell, you can't do that anymore. So what I'm talking about is here's a little document I was typing. Before, you could like get your finger here and just go, oh no, wait, let me just select the word apple there. Or
you
whatever.
could move it back and forth and move the cursor.
You can't do that anymore. This is what you're supposed to do now.
You
which
have to use the
is
space
ridiculous.
bar now.
Yep.
It's so
you have to go to the space bar and hold it, and then your cursor is now, you sort of draw like a trackpad.
Is that what it is now? I've been wondering how to do that, because it used to be.
And then I could go
3D
to.
You used to be able to drag it across the word, and it would move the cursor between the letters.
Well, it used to be
then
3D Touch, which was awesome. 3D Touch, because you could do the keyboard, and if you pressured it, you press down hard, then you can make it a cursor. Anywhere on the keyboard.
This has been driving me crazy, because I thought I broke something or I turned some setting off.
Now
so I
I'm gonna have to
Googled it
check
one
that.
day, and I'm like, why the heck did they change it and not tell anybody? This is typical
And
software
there's
updates by
one
Apple.
massive technical flaw in that new system, and that is that you have to press the space bar in order to get the cursor to move around.
Which is in the middle of the
Spacebar is
screen.
right at the bottom of the screen. So if you need to move the cursor down, you run out of screen virtually immediately.
Yeah.
So
It's the stupidest thing ever.
Really stupid.
Like those are saying in the chat, you can't see the magnifier or anything. Like it worked fine. Like I don't know why they changed it. It sounds like an old man.
I don't mind it
using
being there as
spacebar
well.
to move the cursor around for years. My problem is that I have something typed up. I'll put the cursor somewhere random. I hold down spacebar and I navigate to the word. And my pressure, the amount of pressure I'm using has not changed. Nothing changed. Suddenly, the entire paragraph is highlighted. Now I have to tap out of it, reposition it again. The whole sentence just highlighted out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And that's what's driving me insane.
They've gone backwards in intuitiveness. It's just it drives me nuts. And it goes back to what I said: never underestimate Apple's ability to disappoint.
Exactly.
So Ken is saying that he got a pop-up about it. Maybe my phone's too old, and it decided I should buy a new one, and that's why it was confusing.
Well, my new phone, I have a 10s Max, and
11, you mean?
No, I have the 10s Max.
Oh, I thought you
I don't have
11.
an 11. No, I don't have the 11.
I do too.
It never had a pop-up like that because I had the 8 Plus before, and it had 3D touch.
Well, maybe Ken means when the OS introduced that feature at that time he got a pop-up. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, maybe, but I don't know. But I tell you, I miss 3D touch. I wish Apple would not have got rid of that.
With the amount of, Apple never really, like, you do an iOS update and very rarely you'll see a thing of like, hey, FYI, like there's an important change, or like update your password to be more secure or whatever. For something like that, they should be like, hey, by the way, we changed the way you edit text, which has not been changed since like iOS 3. Like,
well, they
why don't you read this tidbit?
They kind of did say it in the keynote.
Yes,
however,
but
you have to watch the keynote.
Exactly. So your aunt and your grandma and your wife or whoever, your uncle, your son, are they watching this keynote to figure out?
No,
by the way, the
not.
text thing changed. No, tell your damn users in the release notes or something. Come on.
Exactly.
I think we just triggered Steve.
Yes.
Yeah.
You did.
Steve's getting in UT mode here.
I'm out of here.
And the accuracy of voice to text too has gone way down, which I don't understand. I mean, how does it go? How does it get worse?
They're trying to get you to buy a new phone, Dana.
That's what it is, Dana.
The new phone is going to be just as bad as the old phone.
You don't
Yeah,
know.
because I have the
the
10s. I have the 10s Max, and it's still just as bad.
Because back in the beginning, when voice to text sucked, it was because it still had to learn your voice, your pronunciation, all that. But it got better very fast. It would recognize your accent, whatever, and it would work. But I think then, and I could be wrong, but I vaguely remember reading about it, that they started combining people's pronunciations and stuff like that in the cloud, and kind of started applying it to all of it. Instead of
this
learning your
word could be
individual
said,
voice. Yeah.
Right. This word could be said 4 different ways.
Well,
I think that's where it started messing up.
Here's the thing, because my wife hates Siri, and she's from Texas, and she has a Texas accent, and so Siri just hates her. It doesn't get anything right half the time, so she never uses Siri except for in the car, because when she sends texts, while driving, because we have CarPlay in the car, so she can send a text just with the voice, and it doesn't show it on the screen or anything, because Siri will read it back to you. You just say, "Hey Siri, read new text," stuff like that. So.
Yeah, that was the problem the first few years Siri was around, is my southern twang just messed up everything I said. And it wasn't until probably iOS 11 when it finally got to the point where I could actually use Siri properly.
Okay, now start saying period and comma and space.
Yeah.
Oh,
Brock
who
goes,
needs
my
those?
iPhone 10 doesn't understand my Cajun accent.
In the olden days,
See?
we used to use an American accent when we were trying to talk to Siri because it wouldn't pick up the Australian stuff. But it's pretty good these days.
You know what's funny though, Bruce, is I actually use Australian Siri because I like the accent.
I
You know-
use
American
Mel
Siri.
British Siri.
No, I like the Australian
Sounds
one. I
cool.
like the Australian one.
I
I
used
disabled
the
Siri.
Bruce, I have to hear your American accent.
No, you don't. Maybe another time.
Maybe when he's drunk and soldering some Macs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do it all the time in my live streams actually. So you'll just have to watch one of those.
Oh, damn.
Solder.
He's not going to give us a
Solder.
taste in Mac yet. Ah, saves it only for that.
I use the female British accent
I use the
because she
female-
sounds like a smart librarian.
Yeah, I used a female Australian one.
I tried the Australian and I didn't find it to be very authentic, actually.
I think
Yeah.
the last time I
We're
changed
used to
my
Bruce, you know.
Yeah.
All right.
And same with the Irish. I didn't think the Irish was very good either.
I think that when I discovered you could change it, I had like a 32 gig phone or whatever, and I downloaded like every single voice pack, and then I realized like it was using
Your
up
phone is full.
space. Yeah, so I just went back to the standard.
Someone
People would
goes,
always
"The
go, "Why is
Irish
your
female
Siri a
used to-
guy?"
Used to be awesome. She sounded angry in iOS 12.
Who did? Oh, Irish. Yeah, she kind of did. Yeah.
Hey Siri, tell me a joke.
Why don't koala bears
I don't know if you can hear
all the
that.
other bears? Because they don't meet the koalifications.
Wallop.
Have you ever, since iOS 13, have you asked Siri to tell you a story?
No.
It's a long interactive thing about Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and it's pretty
Really?
entertaining.
You
It,
know
like,
what's funny about that too?
She
is-
gives you options to choose as to how it progresses.
I miss the
Time I
days where you could
distract
ask
my
Siri
nephews.
where to bury a body or something.
used to be.
That doesn't work
Fun.
anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't work anymore.
I just remembered, yeah, all those things are probably long gone.
Yeah.
Like, where
Probably
can I
people were
bury a
actually
body? That was
probably
fun.
people were actually using those suggestions to bury bodies. That's probably why they stopped.
I think it used to be, and I don't know if it's the case anymore. If you said you were going to jump off a bridge,
No, it's still, yeah, it'll still.
she would like. Now I think it brings up like suicide hotlines, but before it would show like local bridges that you could go to jump off
Well,
of.
yeah, because it would misrepresent like what
Right.
you. It was like, oh, you
It's
want to
like,
go to
oh,
a bridge? Yeah, sure.
You want to
Let me
go to a
go.
bridge?
Let's go
Okay.
jump off the Golden Gate Bridge or something.
Here are tours for the Golden Gate Bridge. Yeah, it's like no.
All right, I think we've gotten off topic here a little bit, but
We don't do that.
yeah, we don't
No.
ever do that. All right, so let's since we're having some fun here, let's go ahead and get into game time. How's that sound, guys?
That sounds good.
Would
All
you
right.
like to
So-
play a game?
Yeah, guys, if you're new here, we started this about 4 or 5 episodes ago. It's called I guess we call it the Eep or Quack game. I don't know what we call it.
It doesn't really have a name.
It doesn't have a
Yeah.
name. Okay.
The game with
However-
no name. That's
Never
it.
have I
However,
ever.
here's the
Game with
rules,
no
okay?
name is actually a good
It's
name.
never have I ever Mac Yak version.
Yeah, it's basically the goal is to mention fun or odd things we as Mac users have done over the years. Some examples are below, which we're going to get into, and we're basically going to have the audience, which is you guys out there, say "eep" if you
Good.
have done it.
Can I get a good example of an eep, please?
An "eep" would
Eep,
be let's
There
say stream on YouTube. We've all done that here, so
Eep.
eep.
Quack.
Eep.
Okay.
Dana,
No, you're streaming right now, Dana. Come on. Yeah.
I misunderstood the question.
All right, or quack if you haven't. So, if you haven't like done something really stupid to your Mac or whatever, then you say quack. Now, we're going to give some examples here. We want the audience to come up with some too, because we're running short of them. We're actually only got 3 tonight. So,
we
so
have
the first
40.
one is Jay's. So I know Jay put this one in there. So
yes, and this actually came up in one of the Facebook groups a week ago. Like, oh, that's a fun one.
Mm.
Have you ever, or do you, disable, turn it off, natural scrolling as soon as you get a chance to do so on a new install or a new
Eep.
Mac?
Eep, 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 eep.
quack.
What
As
the hell
loud
is
as you
natural
Quack? You're a
scrolling?
natural
Quack.
scroller?
I
Oh my
like
God.
natural
What's
scroll.
wrong with you? Get out of this show.
Oh, the reverse
Very
scrolling.
first
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
I
Yeah.
do after
Quack
installing
for
OS.
sure.
The
I
very
like reverse scrolling.
I used to have a script that did it automatically.
Yeah,
It's so
I've even changed the scrolling on older installs
I
like
even
Leopard
changed the
stuff.
scrolling. I even changed the scrolling on my boot camp to match.
So
this.
the two Gregs
Yeah.
like the reverse, the natural
I
scrolling.
do too.
I think we got a
Something wrong with
50-50
Greg.
split in the chat here as well. A lot of quacks and eeps.
There's a lot of heretics out there.
Heretics. Oh,
I
come
just
on.
remember, and you guys might not remember, but in Lion, the first version of Lion that introduced that, I believe it was.
Oh.
I could be wrong,
Mm.
but the only way to change that until there was a minor update was to actually plug in like a trackpad or an Apple mouse or whatever. Because if it was just detecting you had a standard mouse, that option sometimes, especially if you're using a laptop, wouldn't show up. So
You know
could
how
just-
many appointments at the Genius Bar? Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
was
here's
hard.
another thing too: is anybody running boot camp, getting Windows to do it is a pain in the you know what.
No, it isn't. You just
Sounds like
install the
remote.
drivers for it.
I some of the ones that I have, because some of the mice I use, especially if you use a Magic Mouse, it won't detect it half the time. Windows is weird with the Magic Mouse, but I don't use it anymore. So I actually use one of these vertical mice, so I don't have that problem anymore. But Windows used to be where you couldn't change it to natural scrolling. It was hard to do on certain mice. You know what I'm saying? But now it's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So we've learned a few things about GT and some people in the chat here.
Mm-hmm.
Make note of that.
Well, you got to remember, you didn't have natural scrolling at all on your Puck mouse.
I know who I'm rescuing in the zombie apocalypse.
Yep. Yep.
All right, whose idea was for the next one here?
with me.
I don't know.
Show the path. Okay, I'll read it. Have you ever shown the path bar at the bottom of the Finder window in OS 10?
Eep.
No, quack.
Wow.
That's the second thing I do after turning natural scrolling off.
You can do that? I didn't
Yeah.
know you could do that.
I didn't even
And
know.
if
it was
you
a thing.
right click on the path, you can copy the path.
Yeah.
name.
Really?
It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
have
it's
to do
really
that
really
though. The reason why I
I
say
need to
quack
do
because I
that.
haven't done it, but I am gonna probably do that now.
I always
Because-
show the path bar. I show the status bar. I don't show the tab bar usually, but I usually turn those two on. If I'm working on someone's Mac and I'm trying to fix something, I'm like, I
Oh,
got
yeah,
it.
look at that.
Ow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
It's,
there's the path bar.
Path bar, status bar. I always want to see how many items, how many gigabytes
Oh, look at that.
free. It's-
Cool.
Yeah,
How did
exactly.
I not know about
Ah,
this?
now you have to eat
I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ape now.
I agree with Ken. I feel lost without those features turned on.
Yeah.
Now, if I turn it on one window, does it turn on all of them?
Yes, it's universal
Okay,
at the Finder.
good. Because Apple's Windows settings is another
Where
thing.
do
that
you
does.
turn that on at? It's in configuration.
Just bring up a Finder window, go under View.
Yep, at the menu bar.
Like Dana in the chat just pulls everything up. Hidden files, bars, tabs, everything. That's a little extreme, but I can see how it could be used.
Appreciate.
Okay, Eep.
Okay, Eve.
No, actually, believe it or not, I have to say eat because I actually have the path bar on it and I don't hide it. It's down there.
It's very useful because sometimes you dig yourself down into a folder. You're like, where the heck am I?
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, we got some EEP converters in the
Eep
chat
now.
as well.
Eep now.
Everybody's eeping now, so hey, there we go. Now we're all eep. So I'm gonna have to change mine from quack to eep.
Now, see, macOS used to show the status bar by default, except it
I
was
think
at the
it is
top,
default
right?
now because in Catalina, because I didn't change anything on it.
Mm.
That's default.
I mean, like in older versions, and like in OS
It used
8
to
and
be
9,
in the top.
it
but
used to
now
be
it's
at the
in
top, and
bottom.
it was always there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Neat.
I don't know if I'll use the path thing. Maybe I will, but yeah, definitely the status. I will.
Yeah,
I'll
when
keep
you're
that.
15 folders in, you're
Yeah.
gonna love that path.
All right, and the very last one.
So that
Have
one's
you
going to-
ever arranged your icons as a grid on your desktop?
EEP.
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 Have you seen my desktop?
Now,
Could you imagine
Now,
what happens
I
if it's not organized?
now
Oh,
I
yeah,
say
then
I say
definitely
that eep with a caveat because with Catalina I use stacks.
Ugh, disgusting habit.
I still don't know how to use stacks, so
Stacks is
definitely
awesome,
Eep.
dude.
Yeah, I like
Is
stacks.
the Stacks is the best thing that they
My
came
machine
out
doesn't
with.
support it, so no.
I was always a gridded view person. I would just always have them in a grid. As soon as I saw stacks, no, I'm happy with stacks. I like stacks.
I am too.
So I keep my desktop. Yes, like it's aligned to grid, but I don't have 100 icons on my desktop. That drives me nuts. And I have them sorted in a grid by kind. So all your drives are at the top, and then folders, then documents, and so on. But yeah, if I get more than half a dozen icons on the desktop, I start to twitch.
Dude, my wife, my wife's Mac is like that, and I always get like this when I'm working on hers. I'm like, how do you have all this stuff on your desktop? Because she puts all her documents, everything is on her desktop.
Chris,
like,
count.
I can't
Chris,
I don't know how
how
to
many
do that.
how many icons have you all got on your desktop right now?
Right now, hold on, I have to minimize
I
the
gotta
window.
move
here.
Unhide them because they're all hidden.
I have
198.
How many?
198.
I have 13.
What?
5.
How,
Yeah,
But
icons
those are
on your
all
desktop.
stacks. Those are all stacks.
how are you
I
getting
have,
the numbers so quick?
1,004.
What?
you
If
On
you're
your
using
desktop?
stacks,
I am using stacks, but yeah.
I have
I have-
104.
are you
I
having stacks opened?
No.
because-
What I'm saying is that okay, if we're talking about just the stacks, but I'm talking about in terms of the number of actual documents on my desktop, there are 1,004.
Oh, okay.
I have 84.
Because I mean, I have a bunch of screenshots, I have a bunch of images, I have a bunch of documents that are all in the stacks folder. I count that as one icon. I don't count that as
Yeah, sure.
1,000.
But I don't use stacks, so I got 2 displays, edge to edge. It's icons wherever I look. I don't use stacks, but I cleaned it last week, so it could be worse.
Viewers from my channel that see my desktop always rant on me about having 104 icons. Big whoop.
Well, it actually used to delay your system. So I had a friend who had an iMac G5, and he was a Windows user and always just piled icons on his desktop and did not understand the home folder structure. So one day I showed it to him, and he loved it. And then, of course, 2 weeks later, he was back to cluttering up his desktop. But when he booted up his machine, he had a G5 iMac. It would actually wait. It would render like your icons with all generic icon files. Then it would like wade through. He must have had over 500 icons.
My
And it
Mac
would be
Pro
like-
still does that, Steve.
And he would just like, oh, let's render this little JPEG. Oh, let's render that. And he's like, yeah, my computer takes a little while to start up. I'm like, just put it in a folder.
Okay, since we're mentioning this, I have one more we can go for the game round.
Sure,
here.
yeah.
Since we're talking about this, have you ever had to, when you put your icons on your desktop, use cleanup?
Oh, I use it all the time.
About
I use it all
20
the time,
times a
too.
day.
I
Oh,
have
is it?
I have to have things lined up perfectly.
Yeah.
I can't like.
What was the
if I'm
question?
moving-
So do you use the desktop cleanup function? That's been there
Yes.
since System 6
Which
or
I
7.
still need all
Um,
the time, even though it's arranged by grid. It's supposed to snap to a grid because I have it set up that way, but it never does.
Oh,
Because it only does it to the closest point that you have your icon put to.
And to complicate things, all my file names and stuff are on the right of the icon, not underneath. I keep it all to the
Oh,
right.
you're
the
one
way I
of
do
those.
it.
I'm one of
You're
those.
one of those people. I didn't even know you could do that. So
Yep.
Yeah, I like it that way. It shows the name, that shows the size of the drive or the
Yep.
file, and then how much space is free if it's a volume.
It works wonderfully
handy.
if you have less than 50 icons on your desktop.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though: if you use stacks, cleanup is not available anymore. It doesn't
Ew.
show up as
Ew.
a.
Oh, geez.
See?
Well, that's because you don't need it, because stacks automatically does the cleanup for you.
permanently cleaned.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So, all right. So, any other ones we want to get to the game round before we move on?
Oh,
We
here,
had
here
a
here's
good
one.
mix of eeps and quacks today.
To expound on the one we were just doing. Bruce, you have 1,000 icons on your desktop. How many are in your dock?
We've done my dock before.
But see, here's the thing, though, is
I have never seen a dock like Bruce's. It's
I have a
I'm
screen
gonna have to
that I
count
could
them again,
probably
'cause I've added
show
a few.
1,000
We're gonna
icons.
have to count them again.
I remember he posted it in Discord, and the picture got shrunk so small it looked like a white line
I
across.
had to stretch it over both my screens to see it.
I had to actually scroll across the stupid picture.
Mhm.
Speaking of cleaning up though, like when you have, let's say you have a bunch of images in a folder and you want to look at the
Like
thumbnails,
he's
but you want
counting.
to when you want to look at them really you want to look at them really large. I found that, let's say I zoom in and use that little you're in the icon view obviously on a Finder window, and then you have that little zoom slider on the bottom right. I find a good trick to use, because if I zoom in all the way, it's gonna crop some of them and I have to scroll horizontally or whatever. If you're in that situation, if you go to view and you go to arrange by, and even if you select none or whatever, and then you do a cleanup, it would actually help you out. Or if you do it, I'm sorry, you go to cleanup by, that will actually rearrange them so you're not like horizontally scrolling, because that always messes me up. I'll open like a folder of JPEGs or whatever from a photo album, and I'm looking and I'm like, well, let me zoom this on this massive screen I have, and I'm like, I gotta scroll right.
Holy
He's
crap,
counting
he's still
50,
counting.
10.
Oh, he's
yeah, I
done.
was gonna say, I was gonna start
He's done.
putting numbers out there. To mess him
2,
up.
4, 7.
Okay, let's see who can get close.
Oh,
I'm gonna say
72.
Yeah,
I'd say
Yeah, I was going to go into
105.
75.
I'm gonna go
84.
with 64.
Okay, Grudy's the closest. It's 146.
Oh!
What?
Evan.
In your
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. It's
When
yeah.
Bruce hovers his mouse over the dock and the magnification triggers, his GPU just chokes up.
Gets a kernel panic.
I can't stand
Bruce gets
magnification.
low FPS on his dock.
Yeah, and then-
It's funny. I mean,
the
last
port-
time we covered this, I actually had someone in the chat say they would be able to identify every single icon from
Yes.
the dock.
Did they do
Charlie.
it?
Yeah, challenge accepted, and I never got any further feedback from that. So I'm
That's
guessing they
funny.
didn't, but-
Yeah.
So, Bruce, if you have all those icons in your dock and then you file like a system crash report for Apple, they're going to contact you and be like, we're seeing some very strange behavior on your GPU. Could you clue us in? They remote into your machine. They're like, oh my God, that's the problem.
Well, it's just
So-
There's the
that's
problem.
what
You
you
have
use,
too many
so.
icons in the dock.
Here's one more
You did
submission
design a
from
limit.
the chat. Dana Sibera says, do you command click on the folder name in the title of a Finder window in order to go back through the hierarchy of the folder you're viewing? Eep.
Absolutely.
I do that a lot.
That's neat. That's
Although
Well,
I
let's
just
not do that.
I just right click.
Yeah, that's all I do. Is I right
Or
click.
yeah.
yeah.
I
have
probably right click. What was it?
So if you're in a Finder window and you're several folders in, you can command click the name of the title at the window, and it'll show basically the path of where where your
Yeah.
folders are.
Huh.
Just step up
So if
wherever
you don't
Yeah,
have
I
the
right
path
click.
bar turned on, you could.
And
And it used
obviously
to.
Apple up arrow obviously takes you up one level. If you
And I think that even works in Photoshop, where if you have multiple documents open and you command click the title of the window that's in the front, it'll show, and you can scroll through all of the open documents to choose one to bring to the front.
I want to say it was Jaguar or Panther, that functionality, holding down command and clicking the title bar. I think you only had to right click on the title bar and it had that, but I could be wrong.
I still
Oh, no,
use
you
right
right-click
click.
and it
I
does
didn't
it.
know command click was an option, but it does the same
I think
thing.
command click was
I love
what
it.
it was before. Like
yeah,
an older
I actually,
Mac OS.
no, it still works on right clicking. I just right clicked the wrong position because I'm an idiot. So never mind. I withdraw my comment.
All right, guys. So let's go ahead and I guess we can move on to our next topic here. Let me get it up here. I'm slacking off here. History and tidbits. So I'm going to let Steve go with this because you're our history buff here.
Did I put one in there? I didn't put one in there.
No, I
There's
put
one in
one in
there.
there, but Steve could take it.
There's a computer and it came out. That's all I
Actually,
know.
Steve probably would. He'd be like, it's just Power Mac.
Give
No,
me,
it's just
give
a
me
very-
10 seconds. I'll be right back.
okay. So
All right.
we
He's
wait.
gonna grab one.
We
No.
keep going.
Here's our history and tidbits. In June 2003, the introduction of the first Power Mac G5 came out.
What was that again?
June 2003, the introduction of the first Power Mac G5.
Ooh.
The what? It was a
17
1.5,
17
1.5
years ago.
gigahertz.
Did you say 2003?
Yeah.
Yep.
Power Mac G5. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
So
There we
I
go.
got-
That's my round again.
What other G5 is there?
And I bought mine on the
Oh, there
30th
you
of
go, yeah.
September 2003.
Nice.
So-
You fancy, Bruce.
Yeah.
And then you got mad when they stopped supporting it 2 years later, right?
That didn't phase me, to be honest.
No, he
So
just went
first
out and
look,
bought a Mac
It
Pro.
was supported
Yeah.
a long time, the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I used that for years. So even though, they obviously went down the Intel path, I was still
Oh,
having
So
Yeah,
Bruce
oh,
or
I
Steve
mean-
is going to read us that entire magazine. Right there.
Yeah,
Look at that
read
ad.
the
One of
whole
those,
magazine, Bruce. Come on.
I love
I mean,
the
Steve,
opening
sorry.
ad right there. Isn't that
I
great?
kind of have the feeling that the
That
G5
is cool.
didn't really truly start to go on its way out until Snow Leopard came around. I think Snow Leopard was a big enough game changer that people went, okay, I like this Intel thing.
Yeah. Well, they ran Leopard smooth as butter. They
Yeah.
were powerful processors. But,
Hmm
but yeah,
Yeah.
that's the history part.
Yeah, so I mean, this is an issue of Macworld from September 2003, and there's this whole thing, obviously about the G5 and like, let me skip to that part. It's like how it's gonna change everything and blah blah blah, and yeah, it kind of didn't work out that way. But
You?
I mean, just like raw power, everyone was.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I mean, it's sort of it's easy to forget now, but at the time, there was nothing faster. I mean, sort of like for a consumer level computer, I mean, they were just amazing. I mean, yeah, sure, your electricity bill went up, but they were quite an amazing computer.
Ooh, centerfold.
Yeah.
And it
you were
was-
able to get rid of that extra space heater in your
And-
basement.
I guess
Yes.
it's such a sexy computer that they had to use the same exact design for the Mac Pro Intel version.
I love this. How the chips stack up and shows the G4 and everything. Yeah,
Yeah, the old cheese grater was a excellent design. I mean, yeah, obviously it's designed a little bit different on the inside than on the G5s and the Mac Pros, but it's still basically the same. You've got your, your segmented, and the air goes straight through the machine. It's not like
It's a
PCs
great
where
design,
you're pulling
it
air
still
from the
is.
top, you're pulling air from the side, from the front. It just goes straight through the machine and right out the
Yeah.
back.
Yep. And you got a fan pushing and pulling. I mean,
Right.
you got a fan in the front and a fan in the back, which and they're controllable with
Yeah.
software, which
Yep.
makes it even more user friendly.
I just feel
Because I think all of us use some kind of fan control.
I think Rudy is trying to speak, but his microphone.
His mic is too far away.
Is it?
You're really
Yeah,
quiet.
it is.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
No,
Yeah,
barely.
Speak softer.
You're real quiet.
Really?
That's not.
Yeah.
Yes,
really.
it's-
There's
really,
definitely
you're
something
like-
that's
We'll be,
happening
Really,
in
we'll
audio.
be quiet. We'll be quiet.
Really,
Go ahead.
really? Give me a second. Okay, how about now?
You
There
just
we go.
muted yourself and unmuted yourself.
Well, it's working now, so. But I just feel really bad for IBM because Apple said that they'd get up to 3 gigahertz with G5s, and they never did.
Because
Yeah,
of
well.
because of
Look right
promises
here.
IBM made.
They would have set
Yeah.
a lot of fires.
Yes.
So right here, the race is on. 3
Can you
gigahertz
imagine-
to bust. Apple
I
is
don't-
playing
don't
to
feel
win
bad
the gigahertz
for-
game.
Yeah.
Well, can you imagine the heat sink size of that sucker?
Mm-hmm.
Would have to
I
be.
would love to have a 3 gigahertz G5. Seriously.
Knowing
would
you,
love
you're
to have
probably
a
going
hole
to
in
try to
your
make
wall.
one.
I wanted Colin to try to stick the 3-core Xenon processor from Xbox 360 into a quad G5, but he said it wasn't compatible. It would have been so cool to have a 6-core G5. I mean, it would have been awesome.
Yeah, just keep the liquid cooling in a fire hose form next to it to cool it.
Basically, yeah.
Or you could be like Ken and turn it on and it goes, pow.
Dana says it would spray molten silver out the back, and I think that's
Yeah.
worth a Photoshop right there.
Yes.
Yes.
please
Yeah, there
do.
you go. That's your next Photoshop, Dana. It says
That's
the
the
3 gigahertz
G6.
G5.
Yeah.
What would it look like? What would it do?
The kid goes, that thing just exploded on me. Dang liquid.
Yeah. And that's a fun with that.
All right. So, our last topic tonight is Steve's archive adventures. So, Steve, take it away.
So,
or do you have anything?
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a PSA. So, some of you may know what a RIFA capacitor is. Some of you may not. You are about to learn. RIFA. So RIFA is how they are spelled. And so and I'm not an expert on this, but I believe they are power filtering capacitors. And what they do is they filter the power coming into your power supply. And a lot of the Apple IIs or the Macintoshes, the early Macs, especially the compact Macs, have these in their power supplies. And when they decide that their life has been fulfilled and they are going to, just go on to the next life, they make it well known by a large pop and a puff of beautiful white smoke that smells horrible. So I had been very lucky up to this point, and I had never experienced one going kablamo. And this past weekend, I was tinkering around with my Apple II GS, and finally got something working on it, and all of a sudden, pop! And a huge plume of smoke filled the basement, and I was holding my nose for the rest of the evening. So, just
so do you happen to have a video of this event?
I happen to have the video of it smoking. Yes, if I will crudely hold my phone up.
Did you send it to us on the? I think
well, it's in the chat, but that's 6 million messages ago.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Oh, he has it.
You'll see the nice magic smoke.
Ooh, look at that! Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
No. So, and I'll show you the close up. Yeah, I'll show you the. You can actually see the horizontal crack in the capacitor there. Right.
Just
there. Yeah. So that
I assume that those things are easy to replace.
Well,
they are, but they have to be replaced with the same sort of capacitor. So you saw the X2 on that. That's a safety rating, and you have to make sure that you replace them with the same sort of or better, safety rating. So they're readily available.
Make tantalum versions of that. It's still the same.
The thing is that they are specifically designed to fail in a particular way as a safety capacitor. So if something goes wrong, if there's a surge in the power, they're designed to actually, work in a particular way to either protect the person, protect the user, or protect the device. And there's sort of Class X and Class Y capacitors. But readily available to buy today. You can buy modern equivalents. You can actually even still buy a RIFA if you want to keep everything looking the same way. You can actually buy new RIFA replacements. But generally these days people will...
So RIFA is the brand?
Yeah, that's right.
And usually it does not harm the computer. You replace it, it should be okay, because that's the failing part. Unless something else has caused that.
It did its job.
Yeah, it did its job. It failed spectacularly, and that smell is to make you go, "Oh, I have to go buy new capacitors." Yeah. So,
I had exactly
here's
the
the
same
question.
thing happen
Here's
to
the
me
question.
a couple of days later. I was working on a computer that may or may not be named after someone's daughter, and I was working on this very old power supply, and I knew it wasn't working, but I wanted to just sort of test it, power it on, check some voltages. So I, plugged it in, had it sitting in front of me. Okay, no worries. Then I got a text, and so I started answering the text, and right in the middle of me answering the text, just huge plumes of smoke.
Tell me you recorded it.
I didn't, unfortunately. I was at a two-man dash to actually unplug the thing, so it was sitting right in front of me.
Well, that's what happened to me. It popped, and I'm like, oh, that's a weird popping noise. And the smoke came out. I'm like, oh,
that's a weird popping noise.
I shoved my hand in the back of the 2GS, and I'm like feeling for the power button. I'm like, where's the stupid power? But it looks like there's actually 2 or 3 of them in the 2GS power supply. So I have my work cut out for me to replace those.
Probably, my guess would be probably 1X and 2Ys. That's the way a lot of those old power supplies were back then.
Yeah, so I see a pair of matching ones here.
Yep. That'd be the Y. Yep.
There's a pair of these matching ones here and here.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one that is hidden under this blue cable. It's very hard to see. There's another one there. So, yep.
Well, if you pull them out, send me the details. I can send you links to modern equivalents. So
I will
was
be happy
lucky
to do
with
so.
Nice.
the one that
Nice.
blew up for me on the weekend. It's worth mentioning. The one that blew up for me on the weekend. I had a spare sort of X2 capacitor already, and I popped in the new one and worked perfectly. That was the only
Nice.
fault. So
Yes, I will attempt to do a stream to answer Trina's question when when I get those caps. I can do that. But
Dana Siberia goes, I think one of you need to live stream a Rifa exploding. Pump
Yeah.
240 volts into it or something
There's-
for
if
science.
you-
For science.
If you look on YouTube, there is one. There's a video of a guy hoping that it will explode, and it does spectacularly. So there's a YouTube video out there. You have to watch it. I'll find it on YouTube in a
So
second.
here's the
Yeah.
question:
But-
which pop was louder, the Rifa or Ken's G5?
Ken's. No, I was pretty close to it, so I'm gonna say mine was pretty loud.
But you had more smoke. But you had more smoke.
I had
than
much more.
Oh,
Smoke.
definitely.
Vintage.
Yours had the spectacle. His was
Macintosh smoke.
noise.
Now I have a question. Does a reefer cap smell as bad as a capacitor?
Oh,
Do you
it's
have that
worse.
fish smell?
Worse.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it's
it's worse.
worse.
Yeah, it's
It
horrendous,
is-
and
it
it
is-
hangs around in your nose for ages too.
Hmm.
Because the thing's like the size of your thumb, and then so there's so much material in there, and it just it stinks.
But is it the same smell? Does it smell like
no,
fish?
it is.
No.
It is like
No,
a
very different
weird-
smell.
It's like a very weird chemical, like skunky.
Yeah, it's kind of like a chemically burnt marshmallow type
Yeah.
smell.
It's
Cheap
like
cigars.
once you smell it, it's like, no. But yeah, so that's just a long PSA of if you have one of these capacitors in one of your classic Macs or Apple machines, you should order some or you should find someone to replace them. They normally, when they go, they will not cause an issue, but it's good to replace them. And obviously, if they go, you should replace them. So I'm not turning my 2GS on until I safely replace everything. So
Ooh.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Well, look forward to the stream.
yes, 8 hours of me yelling at the thing.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we've come to almost the end of our show tonight. So the very next thing is we call our shameless self-promotion. So what are we up to here in the future? For me, I'm actually going to probably start some more videos up on my Mac Attack channel because actually I've been getting a lot more subscribers ever since I did that OpenCore video. So I
Really?
have gotten a ton of subscribers since then. So I hit 100 and then all of a sudden I hit 130. So it's starting to incrementally go up. However, we still need more for MacYak. We need to get to 1,000. We want to hit that 1,000 mark. So let's get
1,000.
yes,
Yeah.
let's get those subscribers going. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll tell you that later. So we'll go around the room here. Grudy, what you got going on?
Well, I'm thinking of doing a live stream Saturday since I can't do anything tomorrow. Very busy day. I'm going to start filming videos again, but it's just been such a rough week that I haven't done anything yet. But I plan on doing some stuff. I'm hoping this weekend, and so we'll see what happens.
Yep. How about you, Dana? Dana Does Stuff is your channel, right?
Yeah, I actually did some stuff yesterday.
Yeah, I heard a rumor
Yeah.
that you did some stuff.
We had a little but what were we working on with the Skype call? I can't remember.
Started with an
Dreaded
840
Quadras.
AV.
Oh yeah, Steve and I were kind of sharing notes on our Quadra 840s, and it turned into everybody kind of doing their own thing and just being on a Skype call.
Yeah.
And it kind of got me in the mood. I had a SE30 sitting back in my room that I bought a couple years ago, and I didn't have the wrench that you need to open the top case. And so I recently bought one and said, you know what, I'm going to go open that thing up, because every time I'd walk past it, I would look and go, is that battery exploded in there? I need to find out. And is there everybody muted? What happened?
No.
No,
Yeah, we're
Okay.
listening to you.
we're waiting
And,
on your every
Well,
word.
we see like people laughing, but there's no sound. So
It's been
Anyway,
so long since you did stuff. I mean,
went and
hanging
went
on your
and
every
grabbed it.
word.
And I brought it out here, and I just barely have room on my desk to work on a compact Mac. I don't really have room yet for anything bigger, so
Well, maybe if you would tone down your display a little.
I'm not using that one right now. I was testing it. I want to. Oh my God, it's so nice. So I brought it out here and opened it up. No battery damage. It was an old Tadiran from 1989, still intact. Still had like a 2.5 volt charge on it, if you can believe
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
30 years. I tested that. I tested one of those old West Germany batteries that came out of the Quadra, and it still had like a 1 volt charge on it. So, and then I've got batteries that I put in machines like 5-6 years ago, and they're completely dead. So, but anyway, no battery damage. Was a lot of there you go. There's a Tadiran right there.
Should we be shocked that you actually save old batteries?
What color do you want, Dana? They're delicious.
There we go.
Purple ones taste the best.
Tadiran,
I'm sure
West Germany. I keep these because it says West Germany, and that's not even a country anymore. It's all Germany.
Yeah.
So, but it's the thing was in really good shape. So I told Bruce, I was like, I really want to boot this thing. I think I'm going to boot this thing. And Bruce is like, do it. So
do it now.
And then he reminded me, you're doing stuff. You need to film it. So I did, and it had a 40 megabyte hard drive in it, and it was almost completely full of MIDIs that somebody had recorded. So I immediately went and grabbed a zip drive and backed it all up. But the drive, the thing, it booted right up. It works perfectly, and it's whisper quiet. I've never heard an SE30 so quiet before.
That's great.
So, yeah, I'm real happy with it.
Board's a bit of a mess,
though. So I'll be making a video of that.
Oh, that's cool. We'll be looking forward to seeing that. All right, Steve, you're up next.
So
what do you got going on?
I'm going to be selling bags of candy as one of my Patreon tiers.
Hey, Dana already said you're ready for Halloween 2020.
Yes.
In the chat.
Here's an expired PRAM battery for you. No, we're not going to go to his house anymore.
That's if we get to celebrate Halloween. Come on.
Yeah, well, with me giving out batteries, they'll postpone it.
By the way.
Yeah, there's suppliers. Oh no. So I was pushed to the brink of madness while trying to resurrect my Quadra 840 AV again, and I have succumbed to purchasing an ultrasonic cleaner. So this will hopefully finally resolve many of my issues. But oh yes, and I will be assisting Ken with being a guest star on his WWD DC recap show. So
awesome.
If you grow tired of my voice, well, don't watch it. No, it's going to be a great time. We're going to have fun. So I hope you guys tune in.
Well, now we need to have Ken on the show again soon to ask him how that went.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yep. All right, Jay, you're up next.
I am? Oh.
I'm going around on the way it's listed on my Skype here, so.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Oh, there you're zigzagging. I have an office to clean and a few.
I thought you did.
No, not yet. I'm working.
He moved stuff from one corner of the room to another corner.
Yes, I took everything out of that closet there and piled it up on the floor, and that's as far as I got. I have a few power supplies that need recapping, a few Pixelos mods that needs to be done, 2 Mac Pro CPU trays that need fixing, a bunch of Power Mac G3s that need cleaning up, iMac that needs a hard drive replacement. I got plenty of stuff to do. I'm not sure if I'm going to be recording any of it because it's pretty,
boring.
It's been done. It's boring.
Boring to you.
Yes. So, but more content is coming very soon.
Yeah. What am I paying my Patreon? Oh, actually, I'm not paying Patreon anymore.
For a year. What are you paying me for?
I'm actually not paying Patreon anymore. So, Jay, you want to talk about that actually? You can. Huh?
About what?
So Jay has switched over to a different donation mechanism.
Oh yes, I don't have Patreon anymore. Anyone watching this that is throwing money my way on Patreon, I now accept donations through my own website, thehouseofmoth.com.
Wait, when did this happen?
Dude, come on.
Dude.
Okay, everybody, listen.
I didn't think you'd actually end your Patreon.
Grudy never comes to the meetings. Okay, so
I sent a message out to everybody on my Patreon. Says, stop paying me here, pay me over there, or don't pay me at all. Just
and
stop
was I
giving
one of your
money to
first ones,
Patreon.
Jay?
No, I think Bruce was first. No,
Oh,
Mike
dang it,
was
Bruce.
first.
I guess I'll have to pay you wherever the heck where are you getting paid again?
Yeah, you go to my website, thehouseofmoth.com, and then
click the
in your case, because you're late, you have to pay me twice as much.
Hey,
So, but yeah, more content coming soon. As soon as I organize my office, ants everywhere, driving me nuts. I'll be cranking out some more content.
Yep. And Bruce, you're last but not least.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm thinking of trying to get onto this giveaway bandwagon, seeing as everyone seems to be doing it but me. So I've got a surplus. I don't know how I'm going to make this work with my US viewers. I can probably only offer this to Australian viewers, but I've got a surplus Macintosh 2 VI that I'm going to recap and stream recapping it and repairing it, restoring it, fixing up the floppy, the CD, the whole thing. I'm going to do the whole thing as a complete restore, and then I'm going to give that 2 VI away as a finished restored product. Now,
Nice.
What if we decide to pay for the shipping?
Well, if you decide to pay for the shipping, that's
as long
fine.
as you're willing to wait a month and a half, you'll be fine.
So I will offer sort of shipping as part of the giveaway for people in Australia and mainland Australia and Tasmania. But if someone in the US wants to participate, they have to organise the shipping charges, which I hate.
Hey, you got people asking, says, please do American viewers. I really want one of those. So you.
Okay. Well, the interesting thing about the 2VI, I've mentioned this before in my video, is the fact that it was never released in the US. So even though there are quite a few of them out here in Australia, you won't find many of them over there because they released the 2VX, which is the faster one, but they didn't release the 2VI. So worth mentioning. So, hey. Lots of repairs. Lots of screens.
Sonny, we're not from Australia, okay? Bruce is the only one from Australia. The rest of us are in the good old USA.
We're all scattered.
Yep.
We're all scattered
so
about.
You can see how sort of out my window here we have light, and out the other windows there we have dark.
Bruce is actually in the future. He's actually tomorrow.
Yep.
Friday.
So the day before WWDC's keynote, we have to talk to Bruce and see how it went.
All the way.
Spoilers, Bruce.
Yeah, that'll be great.
How's the weekend looking, by the way?
Yes.
So far so good. Well, yeah.
Oh, Macintosh Librarian decided to join us too.
Hey.
Welcome to the stream.
Yep.
Awesome.
And for everyone here that is joining us for the first time, because we have 34 people watching right now, welcome. We're going to get into it in a minute, but we have a Discord. Please come hang out there, share what you thought of the show, how Steve could improve his performance, and all that stuff you can let us know on Discord.
In fact, I just transitioned over. There's the link to our Discord.
Oh, that was slick, GT. I like it.
Yeah, you like that.
Yeah, I like it.
So this is where I start mentioning the end of the show, which is sad, but we actually do have to go and do other things. But
yeah, we actually did a 2-hour show today.
Yeah, we actually have told ourselves we're going to keep to an hour and a half, but today we did a 2-hour. We figured let's get everything in that we wanted to get in because the viewers were there, so we'll just go ahead and keep it up. We do have a Discord link, so if you want to get on our Discord. Once you get there, you're going to look like you're the only Lone Ranger there because you're only going to see one channel. Read the rules. Once you read the rules, you'll get the magic word to be able to access the rest of the channel. There. All right, so make sure you read the rules and you understand the rules. We do enforce them pretty good on our Discord channel, so make sure you don't blatantly break the rules. You'll get a little warning first, but if you keep on doing it, you'll get put in what we call timeout. We actually do have a timeout.
Basically, don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
That's basically what it comes down to.
All right. So anyways, but we do have a lot of good information on there. We do have a lot of good topics on there, text-wise, and some voice channels as well. So make sure you check it out. It's a pretty good, and we have a lot of people hang out there. So and we also do hang out after the show sometimes as well there. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video. Again, we are doing a giveaway. Make sure you go watch episode number 69. You have to watch that episode because that's the only way you're going to find out how to get into the giveaway. Okay? Otherwise, you're not going to understand. And if you don't do everything that's supposed to be done there, you're not going to be entered into the giveaway. We made it a little bit challenging, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you're in Grudy's condition right now, I would suggest waiting till you're sobered up.
Hey, I'm not that gone yet.
Hey, you said you were hammered on the chat over here. So
Yeah, according to iMessage, you are.
Yeah. So anyways, guys, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell. We only go live once a week, so you're not going to get a bunch of crazy notifications from us. You're going to get it once a week on Thursday evenings at 8 o'clock or at 7:55 because I start the show at right about 7:55 when we start our intro. So make sure you put that on, and we'll see you there, guys. So unless we got anything else, anybody got anything else they want to say before we say bye?
Nope. Jay, you want to say anything?
No, I'm good.
All right, guys. So we'll see you guys next week. Have a good evening.
See you guys.
everybody.
See ya.
Stay safe.
See you guys.